seriously, like, tell your friends what the password is for it. Just,
I've done
as long it will destroy the battery. It will destroy the battery, but absolutely just hammer it.
Hi everyone. Caught the end of a bit of a rant there. We'll probably clue you in on that as we go forward. So yeah, hello and welcome to episode 3. The milestone of 3 podcasts of Talkin Tech, the weekly podcast for Mobile Tech Talk, where we talk about mobile technology, gadgets, give opinions, in-depth discussion, and a lot more around the world of mobile technology. So today we have Chris. Say hello, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
And we have Mark. Say hello, Mark.
Hello, everyone.
Hopefully Mark's audio is going to be cool, so feel free to give us a thumbs down for that.
Yes, it's a known issue. It's a known issue. We just
can't. It's a known issue with Hangouts. Right. Quick teaser question. So last week I hit you with one, and you came back very literal. You and Dom, Chris, that was. This week, off the back of reports that Microsoft have finally admitted that their Windows 10 update attempts to update and has updated automatically, and come next year will update automatically, but it's down to a bug in their Windows update. My question is, what one thing would you covertly force users of a computing device to accept ahead of them using it? And I will go to Chris first because he's probably had more time to think about it.
I'm not entirely sure.
Not the right answer. Try again.
Well, just so I can buy myself some time to think. I read this news article about when it came out initially, and the fact that Microsoft are trying to push something is, I see why people were outraged by it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, some people have grown attached to Windows 7, which is the main one people are crying over. I know a couple of people who have gaming PCs and they refuse to upgrade away.
Yeah.
They're on the fence really about 10. They're sticking it to 7.
So what devious little thing would you push onto people then?
I don't know. The OS, I like that they're trying to push it. They're just pushing it in the wrong way. If there's one thing I'd make them use, not only the built-in apps, I'll give it that. Well, no, tell a lie. That I'd push them to use a new Xbox app, and I know there's probably console wars and PC master race and all that stuff, but I don't have a PC that's capable of running many games.
Mm-hmm.
My primary computer is this laptop, and the fact that you can plug your controller into the laptop, obviously get the correct drivers, and then just game stream over your local area network, I think is a good idea. Let's say you've got an Xbox set up in the living room, and somebody wants you to watch TV. You can, in theory, walk up into another room with your laptop, your controller, you can sit down and stream the whole thing. That's probably what I'd push new Xbox.
Okay. So you'd push that by default. Okay, that's actually, that wouldn't actually be a bad idea. That'd be more helpful than perhaps pushing a brand new operating system on top of somebody else's. What about you, Mark?
Well, after experiences from sort of about a week ago, the thing that I would probably install and try and get Microsoft to teach people about is TeamViewer.
Oh yes, that's good. That is the best.
Because essentially, I am family IT support, so when my sister has issue with whatever it is she's having an issue with, it's a great deal easier than rather than trying to tell her what to do over the phone. Just go, right, go and turn TeamViewer on. Right, what's your username? What's your password? Right, boom, boom, boom. Click. I can log in. I can see what's there on her screen, and I can just basically fix it. I can see what the problem is, and I can just do it. That. If lots more people knew what that was, and if that was somehow more fully ingrained into Windows, so that stupid people who have no idea how computers work beyond switching them on and switching them off were able to ask for help from people who do know what they're doing, I think that would make computers a damn sight more secure. I think it would cut down on all the crapware and spyware that people get. I mean, I've looked at people's computers that have obviously, never been looked at by anyone who knows what they're doing, and the first thing you do is you fire up a browser, and there's like 300 browser tag things, the things at the top.
Yeah.
The toolbar.
And you just look at them and think, kill me now.
So the interesting thing is you've both come for something very positive. I'm gonna.
I think Microsoft need to acknowledge that most people that use Windows computers are morons and neither care nor have the faintest idea how they work.
Roger that. Right. Okay.
It's a magic box that comes on.
That. And add a little bit of balance, perhaps. So, I would force on any mobile device, I'd feel free to put this in legislation as well, the adoption of silent keyboard tones. And being unable to make it any other way.
Yes.
Because there's nothing worse than sitting next to somebody. You don't even have to be next to them. Sitting within earshot, 50 feet away, and watching someone do this, this, and this. And some people have different key tones for each key.
I've never come across that before.
Yeah, I have.
I know
it was a Z10 device. It was a Blackberry Z10 device.
Oh, I know there was that
like, what?
I know there was that bloke you did mentioned on Instagram that did that.
I think, Craig, that you're perhaps looking at a very narrow viewpoint. I think really what you want is phones to just simply be banned from making noise in public.
No, I don't mind noise. Noise is fine. They're allowed to ring. They're allowed to give somebody a notification. That's fine.
Ringtones, notifications, because it's not like it goes ring, 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 ring when you get some, not to disparage, young ladies and their choices of noise that these things make, but I'm sure we've all encountered situations where somebody will either be trying to play music or have a ringtone that is terrible music, and it's just, no, you should just not be allowed.
I'm great on the keyboard sounds. I used to get people that did it on the bus. It used to be the one thing that would irritate me. Would be someone screaming.
Well, it's interesting that two of you went for the ability to improve people's computing and digital lives, and I went for laying the smack down on stupid people. Okay, fine. So we're down one DOM this evening. So I'll jump through some of the news items and play God in terms of when and where we jump. So before we get into that, though, one of us is reviewing a particularly tasty device at the moment. It's not brand new, but it's the first time we've had hands-on with it. So I'm interested to see what Chris thinks about the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge Plus, because he's had it for a couple of days now.
I got it.
So he's going to be reviewing it for the site. So Chris, what do you think? And I'm going to put it on you, so everyone's watching you.
The first impressions when I literally picked this out of the box was, holy shit, how thin is this phone? I mean, I don't know if it comes across very well, but it is very thin compared to, let's say, the old favourite of mine, the HTC One M8. I mean, very, very thin device. Very light, obviously. The 3,000 mAh battery in there is, well, from what I've seen, where I've had to wipe the thing once already because I use the not Touch ID, that's Apple's name, the fingerprint scanner, and set a backup password, but kind of forgot what the password was. So had to remote wipe it through Device Manager. But just installing apps, it held out well. The fingerprint scanner, I don't know if this is going to be a good showing, but it's almost instantaneous. It's pretty quick, and that's going to be the one thing I'm going to miss about this phone. It is no fingerprint scanner. Back to doing pins. The one thing I don't like, well, there's a couple of things I kind of like nitpicking, is the glass back.
Really? I liked that, and I had an S6 and I did like that.
I like it as in it looks appealing. Don't get me wrong, it looks appealing, but I don't know if it's because it's a review unit or it's just me in being just me, but that glass back to me is screaming, smash me. Not like go out and deliberately smash it, but you just know, you just feel like I've got to wrap it up in bubble wrap, because you know at some point, if you're not careful, that back is just going to smash. And mainly the final thing really that bugs me is the camera hump.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was a slight ridge around the camera, and I didn't notice it until I was out tonight, where I had it. Because I go to youth club and I help out in the tuck shop and stuff. On top of the fridge, there's a microwave. It's never used. It's just been moved, and it was near a socket, and I did need to charge this thing. Fast charging, also very useful. Just notice the speed difference, but I noticed how the phone rested on the camera lens, and that was something that was like, whoa, I never realised that before. But seems like Samsung copied Apple on that one, protruding camera lens. But no, apart from that, it's a pretty solid device. TouchWiz, I don't like TouchWiz. Never have them really.
Yeah, but you can stick another launcher on it.
Yeah, I did. No. Action Launcher 3 on all these phones that I have. So on my
Shout out to Chris Lacey.
Yeah, I enjoyed Action Launcher 2, and that's what made me like, oh, I don't really want to spend money on a launcher, but I had £5 free credit to use, so I was like, I'm going to spend it on a launcher. But no, that's a launcher I've used on all but everything. And the final thing.
The camera, Chris? Have you taken?
Oh, that camera is baller. Oh my god. If anyone wants to have a look at some of the camera samples, head over to our Instagram, which is MobileTechTalk, if I'm not mistaken. I put up 2 or 3 different photos. I took one.
They were low light, weren't they? I think.
Yeah, there is very low light. That was, if I'm not mistaken, that was one with just the lamp on. Yeah, so there's 2 up there. There's one which is all but pitch black. The only light that is actually emitting is from a TV. And the way, and it's just my neighbour's dog who just walks in, just invites himself in out of the blue. I don't know if it was the way I caught the flash on the blanket, but that came out very well, and I'm enjoying. And the one with the dog sat on my bed, which is next to me, was off this lamp that I'm using now, and it does. I took it. As I was taking it, I was like, oh, this is the grainiest picture. This camera is going to be shockingly bad. I hate grainy, and then I was like, okay, so I always lock my phone in portrait. I don't like the auto turning, because when you're lying in bed and you just think, oh, my arm's just aching that little bit, you just like roll over, and all of a sudden the camera changes, and it's like you try. Not the camera, but the orientation changes. You're sitting there for about 5 minutes to try and get it back. But I flipped it to a landscape, and it looked brilliant. I'm looking forward to trying the recording app.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. So how long have you got it for?
2 weeks, I believe. I've got to send it back on the. When have I got to send it back? It's got to be in the return date. It's the 24th of the 11th.
Cool.
But I can get it for an extended period if I notify them.
So yeah, look out for that on the site then, guys, because no doubt Chris will have quite an in-depth review on that. And check out the Instagram that Chris mentioned, Instagram.com/MobileTechTalk. He's going to probably put up lots more pictures there, and if they're not there, they'll probably be on Flickr via the review. So Yeah, check that out. And I'm interested because I used to have an S6 and I loved almost everything about it.
But the battery.
And I didn't like Lollipop at the time because it was 5.0.
This is running, I think it's
5.1?
5.1 if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if it's getting Lollipop or not. Not Lollipop, Marshmallow.
It will be.
Hopefully it does, because it should make it a pretty baller device. Yes, it's running 5.1.1.
Good. I mean, I think that would have sorted a few things out. So, cool. Okay, look out for that one then, guys.
But I also mention,
the
pictures that appear on Instagram do appear on our Twitter as well.
Yeah.
And they do appear on Facebook if we remember to use the hashtag sharing.
Correct. Yeah.
Hashtag, which I nearly did the other night, but I was like, hang on, no, I'm sure I'm missing a hashtag. Scroll back to Slack chat. Yes, hashtag sharing.
The joys of if this, then that.
Yeah, the thing that you slated to me the other night.
It isn't great in some
I've had
reasons.
no problem.
It works fine for some things.
I'm using the recipes
continue.
And I've not had a problem. That Instagram to Twitter one's been
that works fine
for ages.
Right, first topic we've got is one that I wanted to mention a little bit last week, but we went on a little bit. Is the LG V10. Reviews have started to come out. A lot of the bigger sites, and they are. I don't know why I'm doing that. They are bigger sites.
They are bigger.
More reputable sites, and so they've had the V10 now probably for quite a few weeks, and they've been looking at all the different bits and pieces. So 5.7-inch screen, QHD screen, and a ridiculous pixel density. 515 pixel density is ridiculous. Still got Lollipop. Pardon?
Don't get the little screen on top.
No, I'm getting there. Still got Lollipop, but 5.1.1. It's Snapdragon 808, so exactly the same as the G4 had, because nobody seriously wants to touch the 810 unless you're Blackberry. 64 gig, but I think it's got it has got micro SD card up to 128 gig, 4 gig of RAM. So it's a bit of a beast. It's got the same optical sensor as the G4 had in there, and as Chris pointed out, the major difference is the addition of a secondary display, which acts very similar to the Edges on the Edge Plus, but it's actually at the top. So
and it's actually a unique screen, well, if I'm not mistaken, like the Edge. Because I listened, not kind of promoting, but I listened to the Android Authority podcast while I was doing my work at college, and I know with the Edge design phones, that they are part of the main screen. And I remember Joe Hindi was talking about he's actually gone out and spent his own money on one of these phones, which is, I think, the first I've heard of that. And he said, with both screens on all the time, he was struggling to get about 12 hours. The exact words, it gets to 12 hours like it's been shot. If you get one, from what I can understand, the best thing to do is turn. This is going to get confusing. So whilst you've got the main screen on, make sure you've got that second screen off. And then when the second screen's on, make sure your first screen is off. Because I know he commented on that. After doing that, he gets about 16 to 17 hours out of the device.
So I mean, it somewhat limits his usability, but so lots of people have been coming out with reviews, and the long and short of the reviews that the big sites have been coming out with is essentially big phone, probably too big for some people, great camera, albeit the software is not great, but only average battery life, and I think what's it got in there? It has a 3,000 milliamp hour battery, so for a 5.7-inch 515 ppi pixel density display to only have 3,000 milliamp hour battery, I say only, but the way Lollipop gobbles up battery as well. So I was really taken with this device, and I actually really wanted to get my hands on one. I still do.
Speak to James.
Yeah, speak to James. I will.
Have you got G4 coming as well, by the way?
Potentially.
Oh, potentially.
So
I know that was on the list he sent to me.
What do you think about this then, Mark? I mean, is this something that originally you looked at it and went, I want to have a look at this phone, or did you just go, yeah?
No, I pretty much went, meh, this is another LG doing, ooh, let's try and do something different. And to be honest, the thing that consumers time and time again keep saying is the thing that they want mobile net phones to do is to have really big batteries.
Yeah.
And it's like, stop giving us 400 million pixels on the size of a postage stamp. We can't see it, right? Okay, I get that it's really easy to play the specs game and to say, look, we've got a bigger number than Samsung does, so ours is better, right? Because a bigger number means better. Well, yeah, but it's like arguing about the Ferrari that goes 190 miles an hour and the Porsche that goes 170 miles an hour, which is going to get you to Tesco's quickest. It doesn't matter.
The speed limits. So it really doesn't matter.
No, exactly. But you get to say, but we've got a bigger number, so therefore ours is better. And the metric that I think really is going to matter, and once one of the big name makers comes out with a 6,000, an 8,000, a 10,000 milliamp hour battery that says, hey, remember those Nokias that you could charge like once a week? Hey, you can do that again.
That would be
yeah, and I think that like you were saying with the Samsung, wow, it's super thin. When was the last time you saw anybody go, well, I really like this phone, but I mean, it's just so fast. I couldn't possibly use that.
There's not. Yeah, I think. Yeah, just jumping on that. I don't think that there's a phone on the market that I would pick up and go, sorry, aesthetically, from a dimensions perspective, I'm never using this phone because it's too wide. I mean, the Priv is a little bit thicker than most because of the keyboard on it and the slide out mechanism it's got. But the Lumia 930, that was probably one of the thicker devices of the last 12, 18 months, and I'd still have used that. So, but okay, does the secondary screen at the top not entice you at all, Mark?
It makes me think that's a cool gadget. I would like to play with that for a couple of weeks. But yeah. I'm not convinced that once I've played with it, I'd actually have a use for it. It's a cool, ooh, let me, new toy, shiny, play with.
Like the Edge design.
Exactly. It's ooh, shiny, new, different, but is it actually useful?
I had that initially with this, with the S6 Edge Plus. I was like, oh yeah, it's really different. I was like, obviously weighting. I was like, this is surely going to weigh a little bit more. I picked it up. I was like, wow, this is cool. But now as I use it, I'm like, it's just a screen. And the problem, it's not a problem, but if you use an Edge device, I'm sure it'd be an Edge thing, like on the S6 Edge, is some keys round off right on that curve. And it's one of the most weirdest feelings to get from a phone. You're typing away, and then all of a sudden, your finger just like, your thumb is like half on, half off the screen.
Yeah, and I think that's why I like the idea of the V10 a little bit more, because you're not going to be typing up there, and there's perhaps a little bit more utility for notifications, because when you get a notification, where do you look at your phone? You look at the top. So I think there may be a little bit more utility there. I think the downside is the fact that just the travel of getting your thumb up there to start with in terms of flicking it across. I think on a 5.7-inch device, guess what? That's going to be a little bit difficult. The other thing I was going to ask you, Chris, was essentially this phone, from almost every angle that matters, is a G4.
I did think that when I looked at it, I was like, hang on, this looks like a really revamped G4.
It's got the same optics. It's got 4 GB RAM instead of 3 GB RAM, but okay. Same OS. It's got the same screen resolution. So it's still QHD. In fact, because it's only a 5.5-inch screen, it's actually got a better pixel density than the V10, and it doesn't have a second screen. That's about it. Still has a 3,000 mAh battery as well. So my question to you, Chris, would be: if you were looking for a new device and you wanted a good camera on your device, would you go for a newer V10 versus a recently reduced £270, £280 G4?
I'd probably, if I had to choose between the V10 and the G4, I'd go probably the G4. It's, from what the reviews I read, it was a bulletproof phone. It would, the only thing that I really saw, and I know this would probably lead Mark away from it, and I don't know if it is with the V10, is the wireless charging. It's something I want to try, and I am trying to get hold of a cheap charger for this S6. But I know with the G4, you had to take the back out, then peel up the NFC sticker, then you had to buy another pad, which was basic, which had the wireless charging coil and the NFC, line it up perfectly. If not, you were booked and had to start all over again.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't come with Qi wireless charging. I mean,
but it has the capability for it, and it has the contacts. I saw Michael Fisher's Pocket Now video on how to do it. I was like, "You're telling me this phone supports it? Yeah, I've got to basically take my back end in half."
It didn't support it, did it? What he effectively did was bought an off-the-shelf Qi wireless charging kit, and effectively bridges the battery contact points, and then it comes around the battery and sits on top of the battery in terms of the Qi wireless charging, which you can do with almost any phone. The only difference is because the G4's got a removable back. Guess what? So a lot of devices have it. So I think that it sounds like we are all of a similar opinion that whilst I don't think anybody would say that the V10 isn't a good phone, it's not a significant enough step for anybody to look at it and go, okay, fine. They've done something different with that phone to make us look at it.
And that's what manufacturers are doing these days. They're like, well, what do we do? We've tried flat, we tried big screen, we tried small screen, we've gone back to big screen. We've got rid of the capacitive key. We've got rid of all the little keys. We've got to sit there like that and roll nothing up. Well, I had to do that the other day. Jesus Christ, I forgot how long it takes. And they're just trying to go for this quirky design. Samsung with the image design on the Note 4, which was to only do it on one side. I didn't think it was very user friendly. If you were left-handed, because if I'm not mistaken, it was on the right-hand side.
Mm.
So for this, it's the people with small hands that aren't going to use this display because they're going to be going. They're like the line of Sebastian's, because I know it's something he constantly moans about in every phone review.
And he's right.
He's just done the Z5 Compact, and he said it reminded him a lot of the iPhone 4, which he did show a snippet of one of his videos when he brought the iPhone 4, and you see them almost side by side, and you're like, wow, this is a Sony phone in a iPhone body. It's what it honestly looks like. And he says, whilst it's nice, he forgets how in portrait mode, so much of the screen is taken up by SwiftKey.
Yeah.
And I think everyone's just trying to come out with new design.
They're all doing the same thing. They're all just doing it slightly. And that contradicts what I'm saying a little bit. They're all attempting to deliver exactly the same functionality, but slightly different way of doing it. And I think my understanding is, I know we've kind of moved away from the topic a bit, but my thought is that when it's not necessarily anything that the consumer wants, you're failing and missing the point anyway. So no one has come out and said, wouldn't it be great if we had a second screen?
Yes, they have.
Have they?
Yes, it was the Yoda phone.
Okay. Hands up who's ever touched a Yoda phone?
Now, I've never touched the Yoda phone.
Hands up who knows anybody who's purchased one.
I wanted one, yes.
Anybody
if it hadn't been insanely priced, I would have been really, really tempted, because I've had 4 e-ink readers, and the screens are fantastic. I love them. They are amazing for what they cost.
Because
for just being so easy on the eye.
Yeah.
You know, if you are, especially if you're in a darkened room and your phone comes on, it's just retina burning.
Yeah.
You've got auto brightness on.
Oh, yeah.
And you've used it outside where it's lit up, and then you just come inside into a somewhat dark room, and you just
I mean,
boom, whoa.
It's just so it's like newspaper print.
It's natural.
Yeah. So I wanted one of them. I mean, I wanted one of those.
That question kind of blew back in my face then.
Yeah, if they had priced that reasonably,
yeah,
I think if people had seen it in a shop, that they would have. I think they would have sold. But I mean, what was it when they first launched? It was going to be almost 800 quid.
The only thing I remember about it is the fact that it was ludicrously priced, but also the fact that they launched it at CES, and then they announced it at CES, and they launched it 12 months later. And to me, they've lost it. They've lost the war before they've even taken their first flight.
Not just that. I mean, as a company, they had issues. They recently had, I think they were on Kickstarter to bring an American banded version, and they essentially said, "Hey, people, look, take your money back, because by the time we would actually get this made, our next version is going to be coming out." So, yeah, I mean, it's a Russian company. Given all the economic woes that Russia's going through, I presume that had some kind of knock-on effect.
Must have.
Yeah,
because or was it called something else? Because I'm trying to find a picture and I put Vodafone in.
It's Yota.
YOT.
Yota. That's probably. And I was just getting you remember the adverts? Vodafone with Yoda. Yeah, I was just getting a load of them.
Getting confused. Now that's what they should bring out. If somebody wants to be different, bring out a Yoda phone, shaped like Yoda, with a pull-out antenna for his lightsaber. Anyway, moving on. I'm going to skip the next one because it's one that I think Dom would have talked about, and I want to talk about it when he's actually on, because technically he'll kind of knock it out the park. I want to move on to one that I kind of threw on there because I thought it raised an interesting question. The fact that there are some reports, quite a lot now. There was some when I first looked at this, but quite a lot. This is from the Trusted Reviews news site, John Mundy, and actually it wasn't on Monday. It was on Wednesday. But it was the fact that Google may be looking at building their own smartphone. Now, before anybody says they already do, no, they don't. The Nexus devices are two sides of the same coin. They deliver the software, and they pick a hardware partner to deliver and manufacture the hardware. So LG and Huawei being the latest with the 5X and the 6P. So I'm going to throw this at Mark first and ask A, whether you think that's a good idea, and B, what you think it might look like.
Okay, first of all, I would like a clarification. When you said that Google are going to make, as in, do you mean Google are going to own the factory that makes the thing, or Google are going to directly go to Foxconn?
My understanding is that Google will design and assign.
They're going to try and do an Apple, aren't they? They were going to try and do an Apple, as in.
It will have no brand name but Google's on it.
Yes, it will be a Google device. So they will own the IP, they will own the design, they will patent it, and they will talk to a manufacturer, not an established manufacturer, a manufacturer as in a sort of tier one.
Yes, and they will have no name on it. It will just so essentially that they will make a phone that is the equivalent of the Chromebook Pixel.
Yeah, they will. Yes, they will come up with the raw materials and then pass it off to somebody to assemble them. But they will design and handpick those parts. Yes.
Right. I think that won't happen unless it is as the Chromebook Pixel, as it's the ludicrous, ridiculous machine that is a cock-waving exercise that nobody expects anyone's going to buy. Because nobody buys a Chromebook Pixel, do they?
Okay, just before you kind of go on from that then, the reason why I think the rumours escalated so much over the last week, maybe 2 weeks, is because there's also a few leaks and a few rumours that Google were looking into manufacturing their own smartphone chips.
Yeah, that's what I was going to try.
So if you're looking to, I mean, it could be that they're looking to be a supplier for other partners and kind of cash in on the Qualcomm sort of demise of the last 12 months or so and go head-to-head with Samsung. But my guess would be that the only reason they'd look to do that would be to deliver some sort of end-to-end Google product. So let's say it's not going to happen. You don't think it's going to happen.
Well, I think that they won't do the whole thing. I think from what you're saying, I could see that Google would have an interest in designing CPUs and chipsets so that they control the drivers.
Yeah.
So that they can guarantee that with every new version of Android, drivers are out and they are available to make it extremely easy for end manufacturers to. They will make it super easy for Samsung, for LG, for Sony, for Huawei, for Elephone, for random companies that don't have Google's money to fund software production. They can say, here's new Android, here's the drivers for your phone, all you have to do is slap your name on it and push it. That I can see Google being interested in. I don't see them wanting to make the whole shebang. There's just, why?
Okay. So, Chris, you answered the other part then. Let's assume that, for argument's sake, it does happen. And let's say that it's not a Project Hara sort of thing. It's a end-to-end Google phone, and this time, 2 years, you're looking at the Nexus 8, or whatever they call it. The Nexus 1 again, let's say. I don't know, whatever they call it. And it is a device that has been designed and built by Google with the latest version of Google operating system. Would you like to see that? And what would you like to see in it? Or what would you expect to see in it if they actually did it?
Yeah, would I like to see it? Well, yeah, who wouldn't? It's a straight up Google phone. It's not a phone that's being subcontracted, and because that's what all the Nexus phones are. They're subcontracted devices. Google's gone, look, we want this, 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 and this, but we really want this. It's got to be soft. They've just gone to a company like Huawei or LG or Samsung. They did the Samsung Galaxy Nexus in the past, and they've just gone, yep, here's this. Stick some branding on. You can have a little bit that says Huawei or LG. I think for a pure end-to-end Google, where everything is Google, like the Chromebook, it will turn techies' heads. It will be a head turner. But I can imagine the pricing is going to be very similar to the Chromebook Pixel. I'm talking the original Pixel, not the Pixel C, because that's technically a tablet. It will be highly expensive, and not many people are going to fork out whatever it comes to. Because I know the Chromebook was about $1,000, wasn't it?
And that was like $2,000.
Oh, was it $2,000? I can't remember.
Basically, yeah, it was like $2,000. By the time it came here, it was going to be like $1,799 something.
Yeah,
yeah, it was the best part of a couple of grand just for it, which is what turns people away. As Dom said, because people that don't know, Dom is a Chromebook user. Chrome OS is his laptop OS, and from the way he talks about it, it's like he absolutely loves it. And I know, Craig, you just purchased the Chromebook, and these ones are a lot cheaper, and I can see it falling into the trend of the Chromebook line. Is we've got so many phones that you can have. But we have the God.
Yeah.
Get the God, you are going to sell both your arms, both your legs, sell your soul to the devil for you to afford it.
Okay, taking your point though, and then we'll move on to the next one because we're only a couple in and we're already half an hour down. So, taking your point though, they've done that with the Chromebook for one reason. They've done that with the Chromebook because it's an ultrabook in aesthetics. It looks like an ultrabook, so they've priced it accordingly. So they're going head to head with the iMacs. They're going head to head the MacBooks rather. They're going head to head with what now is the sort of Surface line, and the general sort of ultrabooks that you get from Sony and Vio, because they're now two different companies. Surely, what Google would probably do is align themselves more, if anything, with Apple pricing. So you'd be looking at a $600, $700, $800 phone, £600 phone for a top end Google phone. Would that be that bad if it was sufficiently decent? I mean, people are walking out and buying iPhone 6s.
If it priced like the iPhones, it would be compelling. It would get more. My biggest problem with I hate going back to the Chromebook, is the price. I mean, it's basically a web browser. You want to charge me £2 for a web browser. That's my issue with it. If the Google phone was to come out as a direct iPhone competitor in the iPhone price bracket, could run with the iPhone, speed-wise, hardware-wise, camera-wise, more than likely it wouldn't happen. It won't get it bang on. But if they could get something that would compete with the iPhone, would sit on the iPhone's ass like a tailgater, then it would be compelling, and I would possibly want one. What would I like to see in it? Just basically good chipset, something similar to the Apple. Is it the A9 they're currently on?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the A9 they're currently on. Something similar to the A9, but not the A9. If it had an iPhone 6 camera, or very, very similar, I would be satisfied. In fact, if it had the S6 Edge camera in it, I'd be very satisfied. RAM-wise,
maybe that's the fix, Chris. Maybe that's the fix. Maybe you just nailed it. Maybe Google just buy Samsung and be done.
Yeah.
We'll probably end up having a chat about this because this is going to roll on.
This could be a dedicated podcast.
It's not going to be the last rumor. I will get excited when Google start making their own panels. Then I'll get excited about the fact that they are looking to manufacture a whole Google phone. Nobody manufactures their own phones. In terms of their end-to-end bill of materials. So I can't see Google doing that. But if Google...
Samsung can pretty much make everything that goes into their phones, which is why they make the profits.
Yes, they can. Yes, you're right, they can. They've got the NAND flash, they've got the panels, they've got the chipset.
They've got everything. Though, to be fair, it's not like somebody couldn't just turn around and buy Foxconn.
No. You're absolutely right. Okay, moving on to the next topic we've got, which is one that probably Mark will have something to say about.
Yes.
But it's not directly related to an article that Mark put on the website recently.
No, Apple were kind enough to wait till exactly when I posted my review of their music service before releasing the Android version of it. So
effectively, Apple Music have released an Android app for Apple Music, their music streaming service, and the TLDR, the summary of this is it's the same app as you get on iOS.
Yeah. So basically, the service is still crap. Not just crap, but it felt continuously in my use of it that they had a set idea of what Apple Music users were supposed to like, and they were going to keep forcing that music on me until I grew to like it, including, I kid you not, the "Fuck You Google Plus" song.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a
Oh,
YouTube
really?
that wrote that?
Yeah, you know the song from YouTube
Yeah.
with that girl not happy about the comments thing? Yep,
Yeah, that was
Apple
in the
Music.
Blackberry. I remember. I got showed that, and I got into watching some of her stuff.
So let me get this straight then. So Apple Music, off the back of your catalogue that you had in Apple Music, suggested that song.
Oh, it played it, yeah. To be fair, the suggestions that Apple Music would throw at me were bizarre. Like it would be a page of Jay-Z, and then like Rod Stewart would appear.
But so how? Okay, just because I don't know, because I'm not particularly old. I'm 35. That's not that old, guys.
Coffin Dodger.
But I don't consume music that way. I stopped listening to the radio as such in my late teens, and I consume music by listening to what I like listening to, and then looking for music that's referenced by that. So if it's rap music, I'll look at what rap music's coming out. If it's pop music, I'll look at the charts or something like that. What Apple Music and Beats and Google Play Music, it's all attempt to do, and Spotify and Audio and Deezer, all these guys. It's compelling to me, but it feels like this sounds a bit garish, but it feels like I'm not actually owning it. Garish isn't the right word.
Well, you don't own it. But can I ask you?
I don't earn it. I don't actually earn it. I have to go out there and look for something. Whereas here I go, this is what I like. Give me more.
Can I ask you? Have you ever used Deezer or Pandora?
Deezer,
No.
yes. Pandora.
I've used Audio and Spotify. They're the only two I've ever used.
Audio was pretty good.
Well,
I had Chromecast only. I literally had it because it couldn't connect to my Chromecast, and I didn't want to pay a subscription. It was like, oh yeah, by the way, we're giving you a free set time just because you run a Chromecast. Okay, I'm going to use that.
So why do you ask, Mark?
Because in my experience, those two, although there seems to be some debate on Deezer, but certainly Pandora, or the way Pandora entirely works, and you might have to pretend to be in the US to make it work, is you tell it a song or an artist that you like, and it will then play you a channel of things based on what you've told it that you might also like. The first time I ever used it, within the space of 3 days, had gone and bought a CD.
Okay.
Because there was an artist that I'd never heard of before, incidentally, Vienna Teng, who, nobody in the UK knows who she is. I'd never heard of her, started getting some of her songs thrown at me, and realised, oh my god, this is awesome, I love this. Pandora and Deezer have both done that to me, where I've sat and listened to their suggestions and found myself thinking, what is that song? I really like this. And going away and spending the next 3 hours looking up this artist and looking up their back catalogue, and it's like, oh, right, well, they've got, look, they've got a CD from a couple of years old that's £2 on Amazon, hell yeah. And ordered. That, I think, is the indications of a good music service, is when it's pulling things you've never heard of, your friends have never heard of, saying, here, you might like this, because there's a lot of music out there. We just don't get to notice it.
I've had a similar experience with Spotify. I'd listened to a song many years ago, and God, that makes me sound old, but I'm not really that old. I'm only 16, 17 in a couple of days, but hey ho. I heard a song and I hadn't heard it for years. And I was like, I'd heard it like sections of it afterwards, beforehand. I was like, what is this song? I cannot remember it for the life of me. And I hit Spotify on a free trial. Common thing for me in free trials. And I got the song. I was like, wow, I really did enjoy listening to it, and I really still do. I think for something to find something like that and go in your brain and go, oh wait, not obviously it wouldn't have known I've listened to it before, but it's managed to go through some algorithms and gone, oh, you're liking this song, this by this artist in this genre. Here's one that we think you'll like, and it's gone to me. Oh wait, I know this. I enjoyed listening to it. I'm going to listen to it again.
Yeah.
And I know with Apple Music, just whilst I'm in, Sophie, who should hopefully be on the podcast at some point, said it when Mark was talking about Apple Music. She said it was constantly trying to get her to listen to YouTube. Bearing in mind the type of stuff she tends to listen to is classical music.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a bit tough.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I've never,
that's you before as well, Mark.
I've never encountered anything quite so bizarrely pushy as Apple Music. It kept pushing the weirdest random stuff at me that I have absolutely no explanation as to why. I mean, what's
program.
I mean, but like, what? Just.
Well, okay. So, if you want to, and I suggest you do, go onto the MobileTechTalk.co.uk website, check out Mark's review of Apple Music, and then check out his review of the Deezer music service as well. This particular topic was, and the reason why I kind of didn't steer it is because it is what it is. Apple have created an Android app, and go and download it if you want to use Apple Music. I think the source that I got this from was Engadget, and the one question that they pose, I think, is particularly interesting, is that if you're an Android user, the likelihood is you probably don't use Apple Music now. You probably use, if you use a streaming service, you either use one of the cross-platform ones or you use Play Music. I think, you know, it's a little bit too late to shut the gate. The horse has already bolted. I think most users of this particular platform would already have chosen a platform to use. So it remains to be seen.
Honest, I think that Apple Music is going to go the same way as Ping. They're both clearly Me Too products that have had absolutely zero thought put into them, and they just blatantly do not do what they set out to. So I see it just dying a death in a couple of years.
I wouldn't be at all surprised. So I want to do two more before.
Or Apple gets this checkbook out and buys somebody else.
Well, they can, can't they?
Yes.
If they want to buy a podcast for whatever reason, then I'm sure there's a few podcasts out there, but we'd be willing. Why they would want to buy a podcast, but they may do. So we're on iTunes as well, by the way. So I want to get two more topics in.
Well, just quickly, that might be mentioning. Not on Apple Music, but on Apple. If I'm not mistaken, this is the first ever app they brought to Android. I think I saw a review. It was the first app. The bit that really made me laugh was Android, well, Google, not Android, so to say, has always had apps for Apple. And it seems weird that it's Google it's finally Apple that's gone to and say, hey, we've got all your. It's not done like that, but it's actually like, oh hey, we've got thousands of your apps. We support all of these. We'll give you ours, but we'll give you a shitty one.
I think. I mean, just to round it out, there's a couple of things on that. I think just to highlight the fact that, I mean, again, Engadget starts at Nathan Ingram. He basically starts the review of the Apple Music on Android by pointing out a quote that Steve Jobs made quite a while ago, stating that launching iTunes for Windows was like giving a glass of ice water to somebody in hell. And you know, so he's kind of backhandedly swiping at Microsoft. If anything, now though, these companies are all starting to get a little bit more incestuous. The fact that we had the iPad Pro event, and they started talking about how the only company to actually work with if they want some sort of collaboration and productivity tool is Microsoft, and then they wheel Microsoft out as a partner. So you take everything these guys say with a pinch of salt now. So. Right, the next one we're literally just going to skirt over this because I don't think anybody's actually interested. And I think I wanted to put it in there because nobody's actually interested. Is Tag have actually released their first gorgeous-looking Android Wear watch. It's going to be
about this.
around 1,100 quid. It's called the Connected, or Connected One, I believe. And the long and short is it's an Android Wear device for £1,100. Anybody, either of you, actually interested at all?
Interested? No. It's a smartwatch. I wouldn't say it's the most expensive one I've seen. But I did, I think it was on a CNET Daily or something, I can't remember what the actual thing was. It's apparently you could buy this thing for, so I don't know if it's a US thing, but you could buy it for the amount it was. And then a year later, and it's really seemed bizarre, they were advertising you could spend another another figure for an actual mechanical watch. Now I'm not sure if they were buying back these smartwatches or the Connect, but I thought it was really odd how they're advertising buy this for, in this case, 1,100 quid. Then if it's how I think it is, they buy it back, and so they buy it back from you. They take it off your hands, but you should got to spend another 1,100 quid to get something that's mechanical, which will eventually then, as Don was saying in chat, travel down generations. But I just think it's odd, and to me, it's an overpriced watch. I don't do Rolexes. I don't really do watches. If I do a watch, it's like the cheaper ones at about a tenner. Seem to last for a while, but
you've stolen my thunder a little bit, and I'll tell you what I think in a minute. But are you interested in this, Mark?
Well, I would sum the thing up as it's a £100 watch with a £1,000 brand name.
Yeah, absolutely perfectly put.
And so if you are the person who buys a £1,000 watch because you want people to see that you've spent £1,000 on a watch, then yeah,
buy an Apple
this
Watch.
is the Android Wear watch for you. But yeah, no, as a piece of tech, no.
Well, okay, we'll move on then, because you effectively said exactly what I was going to say, is that you're buying a brand here. There's a couple of, this is from wired.co.uk is where I got this one from, and they've got a gallery of like 6 or 7 particular pictures. I think James from Honor also put on Twitter, I think it was James, it was Paul O'Brien, sorry, Paul O'Brien from Medico. He put a particularly ridiculous picture of this on Twitter, where the outside of the connected tag is 0 to 60, and then the Android Wear watch, the watch face, which will be bundled with it, also has 0 to 60, and then you've got a smaller watch face in the middle, and it's like, okay, they haven't really thought this one through. So if you've got lots of money and you like spunking it away on watches, that £5 watches do exactly the same thing, then knock yourself out.
It's jewellery. You buy it because you want to show off that you can buy that. That's it.
Okay, the last one we're going to talk about today is one that I think Mark's probably going to have a lot to say on it. I don't know an awful lot about it, other than obviously 2 weeks ago now we were discussing the fact that BT and EE, which I came up with EEPT, because I think that's better than BT, we're going to merge and create this, honestly, not a monopoly. Vodafone weren't happy about that, and they were complaining that it would dilute competition and therefore be poor for consumers. I know that they put that to Ofcom and put that to the EU regulators as well. Now it's kind of all kicked off again. Do you want to tell us about this one, Mark?
Well, essentially, it boils down to Vodafone are upset that BT is essentially kind of domineering and closing ranks in the UK, and in Germany, where Vodafone also actually has much more of a presence. In the UK, Vodafone has a mobile network, and that's basically it. Vodafone recently bought a German cable company, so Vodafone there do supply, kind of the equivalent of Virgin. They've got TV, they've got internet, they do landlines, and in the same way that Virgin has a non-cable network in the UK, or at least used to, that was overrun by the incumbent monopolist, in Germany's case, Deutsche Telekom. Essentially, Vodafone is saying that BT and Deutsche Telekom are both being monopolists, and they're both trying to essentially take over their respective markets, and Vodafone is upset and throwing toys.
So, where does that leave everybody there? I mean, BT and E are still merging, correct?
Yep.
Vodafone are just crying about it and nothing's going to change?
Oh, essentially, yeah, this is just Vodafone. They are upset, and they're currently run by perhaps not the most exciting and dynamic people that the company's ever been run by. And, you know, essentially when a similar situation happened rather a long time ago now, Vodafone had friendly agreements with a company called Mannesmann, and Mannesmann, essentially they had a gentleman's agreement that Vodafone wouldn't compete in their market and that Mannesmann wouldn't compete in the UK. And Mannesmann bought Orange. Vodafone was very upset about this, and so Vodafone decided to launch, at the time, the world's largest hostile takeover to buy Mannesmann. So at that point, Vodafone took over Mannesmann, so essentially it owned Vodafone and all of Orange.
Yeah.
This is why Orange then, of course, they were forced to sell. That ended up going away to France Telecom. So essentially, all these companies have kind of been, you know, they play in the same sandpit, and Vodafone feels that in the German market, Deutsche Telekom is being a little bit too powerful, and respectively, BT is doing the same in the UK. And Vodafone is just not used to having to compete with people bigger than themselves.
And yeah, I think that's what it boils down to be fair, is the fact that they used to be in the bully in the playground, and all of a sudden they've got a little bit of competition. They've moved up to big school, and they've realised that they can't push everybody else around. I think the only thing that I agreed with is that I think, and I think I said this when you originally pointed out the story a couple of weeks ago, I think there is a point to be made that BT and E merger is not necessarily great for the consumer. I don't think we necessarily could say that the mergers of telecommunications providers in the past have been particularly good for the consumer either. I'm not sure.
I think it depends. I mean, from, you know, history has shown that BT likes to operate in a certain capacity, and that is to do as little as it possibly can, and to milk their existing infrastructure. That's what they like to do, and they're really good at that. They own all the copper wire in the UK that run into people's homes, and they make a healthy chunk of money off that. So they will absolutely not want to change anything. They will want to squeeze every penny they can. However, Vodafone is a big boy. It can, if it wants to, compete, right? It can. I mean, Vodafone, don't forget, just sold its share of Verizon Wireless for, I think it was $130 billion. Now, granted, they've frittered that away, but, you know, Vodafone, if Vodafone really wanted, if it really, really, really got upset, it could turn around tomorrow and buy Deutsche Telekom. Right, it could. You know, and I think if Mr. Gent was still running them, that's probably what they would be doing. Either that, or they'd be looking at throwing in a bid to buy British Telecom. Just because Vodafone is the biggest boy in this playground, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, can you just see this running and running, or are they going to eventually, or are they going to shut up? Is this it now, or are they going to carry?
No, I think they will throw tantrums. They will also make a piecemeal tantrum about 3 and 0-2. But then I essentially think the UK is going to end up with 3 really big, really powerful companies, and I would like to think that they hate, basically, Vodafone and hates BT so much, they are not going to play friendly together. I see them fighting, and I think the consumer will be the beneficiary of their fighting.
Okay, so, I mean, I'm fed up of hearing about them now, to be fair. I just wanted to shut up and get on with it. I'm not a big fan of the merger. I understand why they're doing it, obviously. And yes, it may bring some economies of scale as well, but I can't see that necessarily being a good thing for the customer. But it's not like everything Vodafone delivers is full of value either, so I think they should just suck it up.
I would have a problem with it if it was going to be a three-way market that was, big giant Vodafone, big giant BTEE, and little tiny Three.
Yeah.
But it's not. Three are going to take over O2. They're going to be a big player. They've got big parents with a big checkbook. Those three companies, if they really want, and the fact that they all don't like each other.
No.
Right? They're not going to collude on pricing. They're really not. And mostly, I see the other two launching attacks on BT just to screw them. And I think the customer is going to come out exceedingly well over the next 10 years.
Well, we shall see. We shall see. Okay, so we're running on to about an hour, so there are a few things that we've probably missed off this week. We'll probably call it quits, and when we've got a full-strength team. Next week may be a little bit different. Lineup may look a little bit different in terms of some of the other people that we've got from MobileTechTalk might get a bit of a run out. So we'll see, but I think...
Can I just add something quickly on? I know we're trying to swiftly move, but I think... I know it's a topic that we're trying to brush, but I want to quickly skim it. Nexus 6P, we've all seen the photos on it, Twitter, about the cracked...
yes, yeah, you're right, we were going to talk about that.
And it's one I really wanted to push because it was not many at first. It was like, oh, it's just the odd one or two. I was like, oh, it's just one or two, it's a bad unit. And also it's just blown up over Twitter. If you're considering buying a Nexus 6P, I would strongly recommend reading into this because I think it may be down to some heat dissipation issues with the metal body. I'm not too sure, but definitely worth noting.
Yeah, I think that the thing worth pointing out then, which I think, yeah, I mean, I was waiting. I was going to wait and see what actually came out over the next week, but good point. Yeah, the point is, some people who may listen to the podcast may be thinking about Nexus 6P, so we should probably point it out. And the fact is that there's a number of outlets, Android Police, Android Central, a bunch of other outlets have pointed out that there have been some reports of not only the front glass being easily broken, but also the thin protective visor, effectively as it's known, across the optics on the Huawei, the Nexus 6P, have also been cracking. Now, I looked into this a little bit today. I didn't find any particular tens of thousands of people that had this issue. I don't even know if there's tens of thousands of people that bought it yet. But there were, of the people that I saw reporting this, genuinely reporting this and posting pictures, they all said the same thing, which was a little bit worrying, specifically about the visor. The fact that without them touching it, just watching it, in a normal room temperature environment, this glass was starting to crack and shatter. Well, not shatter, starting to crack and spiderweb across the visor. Now, as Chris points out, it could be heat dissipation, a little bit of shrinkage or increase in size. It could be just a particular issue they've got with the other side of it. The front panel's cracking as well, similarly. Could be something to do with a poor batch of Gorilla Glass 4. I personally would put it down to a poor manufacturing batch rather than poor design. What do you think, Mark?
I think it comes down to metal-bodied phone, metal... And what chip's in it again? It is a Qualcomm, isn't it?
It's an 810.
Oh, right. So the one that gets famously super scorchy hot.
Well, it depends who you listen to.
What happens again to metal when it gets hot? What's
You've
that thing
got
that
me.
does?
Don't know.
I've paid attention in science.
Yeah.
It expands.
Yes, I've heard things that do
I
that.
heard
When
that.
you get hot, they expand. And I've heard that glass tends to be kind of rigid. So the metal enclosure around the glass, if it suddenly expands a teeny tiny little bit from the super scorchy Snapdragon, yeah, glass break. I'd like to say I'm shocked and surprised, but I think the blame lies squarely at the CPU choice.
At the where, sorry?
CPU choice.
Okay. So you think this is a design flaw? You think that regardless of the, let's assume across parts per million sort of
I don't think it's a design choice. I think it's a Google wanted Qualcomm processor in there rather than Huawei's own Kirin processors. Huawei have been making lots of nice, lovely phones from metal that have not had this problem. I've not seen them using the 810 until this phone, and then Scorchio shatter.
Bernie.
Yeah, I think Google insisted that a Qualcomm chip went in it, and Huawei probably assumed that, you know, the chip wasn't going to melt plastic and melt steel, but clearly they were wrong, and this is an issue.
Well, the reason why I'd originally put it on the rundown, and Chris is right to kind of pull me up on not mentioning it, is the fact that only last week we were talking about the ease of some of the YouTubers when it came to bending this particular device.
Hashtag Bengate.
Yeah, hashtag Bengate. Don't proliferate it. It doesn't need proliferating. And now
Really?
the 6P's got some bad press around the glass as well, both front and back.
Metal thing will bend. Metal thing when heated will expand. Well, I kind of just want to go, duh.
So the long and short is buy a 5X.
Or buy a 6P with caution.
Well, or if you don't want a phone that's going to have plastic shatters, buy one made of plastic.
Then that'll melt instead.
Well,
spontaneous combustion.
But you know, it's
hard to believe, but I did pay attention.
Well, one of the things that we were going to talk about this week, but we're not, because I want Dom involved, is the next Qualcomm chip's been announced, the 820, and all may already not be rosy with that around heat dissipation. So
heat seems to be a big problem at the minute. Look.
Well, Qualcomm don't seem to be winning any friends or any battles at the moment. So anyway, we'll leave it there, and hopefully. I'm expecting more to come out. If this is a big issue.
Can I just throw one thing in, just because I feel bad about it?
Maybe.
I see from the notes that this is essentially the third week that we've had the BlackBerry sitting there, and we've never spoken about it. And it just, I think, it sums up the device itself.
It's what should have been done, in my opinion. It should have been done way back.
Maybe, but it's just I basically feel bad for BlackBerry because, god damn it, they keep trying, and the rest of the world's just not interested.
Well, okay. I mean, I don't want to do it to death, and the reason why I think you're absolutely right. I'm a little bit nonplussed about it, and I think the combination of the specifications that they've put into this make or break device. I mean, it's they're on one of their last.
Do we think, you say make or break? Do you think this or any device could make BlackBerry again?
I think this is the device that will make existing enterprise users now look at BlackBerry and go, we're going to look somewhere else. BlackBerry's been the mainstay for enterprise over the last 10 years, 15 years.
I'm going to say it was also used for teens, not just on enterprise. I know that BlackBerry Messenger was implemented a lot by teenagers.
Well, I think that was because of the methodology around the delivery of BlackBerry Messenger, and also the fact that the devices were second-hand, were quite cheap. I think now...
About 50 quid. I think I picked one for 50 quid up at one point. I've seen the couple going for a little bit less. They were cheap those to buy second-hand.
I think now that they've got the BlackBerry that's 560 quid at best, and it's running Android, and yes, okay, there may be some privacy features and security features in there, fine. I don't know whether enterprise users will look at it and go, I want the next BlackBerry. There's plenty of privacy and security features on iOS and even Samsung devices, you know, with the Samsung Knox and stuff like that. So I'm not sure whether BlackBerry is as compelling an enterprise product anymore. And I think this is why, frankly, I've kind of ignored it.
I know BT, don't mean to go on about them again, but I know when I have a BT engineer out to sort my line out, they always have an iPhone 4S with them. And for some reason, none of them ever seem to carry chargers. So I think everyone that's been around have had to lend a charger to whose phone was about there.
Well, the company I used to work for 3.5 years ago, they had started moving away, probably in the 2 years before that when I was working for them. They'd started moving away from BlackBerry Enterprise Server and moved towards, they used Domino. So they used a Traveler server, which is effectively a BlackBerry Enterprise server, but for anything that's not BlackBerry. And using
so you can have cross-platform then?
Yeah, well, it uses web services, so it was for predominantly Android devices.
But it could be accessed on iOS?
Pass.
All right.
Don't know.
If it was accessible on both, then that would have been big. Obviously, I'm not aware. I don't know.
I don't know.
Fight to them.
But I think the fact of the matter is the fact that there were Android devices out there that were cost effective, that they were powerful, that users could provide more functionality because the BlackBerry App Store has always been and is shocking. I think that's kind of why people started moving away. And we're talking now 2010. When this started moving away, when this company started moving, and yeah, they weren't a big company, but they weren't a tiny company. You know, we're talking about 6,000 employees. I mean, they're not tiny. So I think you're absolutely right. It demonstrates where I personally see BlackBerry as a mobile phone manufacturer, and I don't think they're anywhere near it. And I don't think this is going to help them.
I think this device, it could be, you know, it could be the resurgent device, because I still think there's a lot of people out there that would like a physical tactile keyboard. I think there's a lot of people like that. There's a friend of mine I know, she wants this. She wants it. She is not paying £600 for one.
I think therein lies the issue. Now you've started me on it, Chris. This is your fault and yours, Mark. Because
it's been on the notes every week.
Let me just get my chair sorted, ready for this rant. So, the long and short here, in fact, hold on. There you go, presenting. So, number one, they have acted like an Apple or a Google in the fact that, let's say an Apple, a Samsung, or an LG, or an HTC, even though HTC doesn't really count in my opinion. But anyway, they've acted like a tier 1 OEM, and they have somehow suggested that from out of the ether, this first-gen phone, which is exactly what it is worth premium price. It's not. You can't waltz into the market. Look at OnePlus, look at Oppo, look at Meizu.
Look at they made a loss, if I'm not mistaken. They were losing with the one. But
the fact that they've walked in and they've gone, look, hi guys, we know we're the new player. This is how we're going to get your custom. And like it or not, OnePlus did it. And they're creating a sustainable business model off the back of it. BlackBerry have said, we're huge. We don't need to do that. We command this premium price for our product. No, they don't, because this is a product that you've never created before. This is a first-gen product, number one. Number two, all the reviews I've read, and granted I haven't touched one yet, suggest that this is possibly one of the worst BlackBerry keyboards that's actually been on the device. So they're taking what they normally do really well and kind of dumbing it down. And then I think the last one is the fact that whilst I actually quite like the design, I don't care about the thickness. I think that's fine. I think they have almost missed a trick by either bringing out the device too late or not waiting long enough. Sorry, bringing out the device too early or waiting too long, rather. I think they've hit a poor sweet spot for them, or I don't know what the opposite of that is, but they've hit a point where raw material manufacturers are not raw material manufacturers, sorry, component manufacturers are moving on from the last gen and haven't quite caught up with next gen, and they've gone with a Snapdragon 808, which is the same that you can get in G4, exactly the same, almost exactly the same product. It just is, apart from a physical keyboard, and it's twice the price.
I think that when you're saying about the specs, I think most people who used a BlackBerry are not us. They do not know the difference between a Snapdragon 808, an 800, an 801, an 810, an 820. They have no idea what those things are. So the fact that it's got an 808 in it and it's not, what's good, it's about to not be the latest, doesn't matter. What I think matters is that there is people out there who, I think there's an awful lot of people who will have, much in the same way as that people, spent a long time with Nokias. There's an awful lot of people that spent a lot of time with Blackberries, and they want a BlackBerry. They miss that keyboard, whether they actually really do want it or not. They think they want a real keyboard, so they want to look at that phone. They want to go in and they want to buy it, but there's no way they're paying that price for it. Just no way whatsoever. If BlackBerry had brought out that phone at 200, 250, we would have all gone, "Wow, BlackBerry's serious. They are really serious about coming back."
I think you're right, and I think the BlackBerry owners and BlackBerry fans are some of the most dedicated and some of the most loyal, and probably more so than HTC fans. Samsung, I don't think necessarily have fans. They have. I'm trying to think of the right words, but I wanted to say drones. I know that's not right, but they
have paid media representatives.
they iteratively deliver just enough to make people go, well, I may as well have the next one, just like Apple. BlackBerry, however, aren't fallible. They brought out in 2008, I think it was. 2008. They brought out the Storm with a ridiculous screen, and everyone went, nah, not buying it. No, sorry. They brought out the Playbook, a BlackBerry tablet, and people went, no, it's crap.
I had one of them and swore by it. He had an Android phone. He was like, I don't want this as a tablet. He then got an iPhone and went, I don't want this as a tablet. He's lived and died by his Playbook for some reason.
The BlackBerry's problem is they make good stuff. Their OS, the QNX-based version, was good. The problem that they've had consistently is they want to charge an amount that makes every single one profitable.
And they want to give it a seemingly premium feel from day one with the price, which is what Microsoft are doing.
They want a big profit margin, and they want a margin on each and every handset. And you cannot build a market that way if you're going to have a separate operating system, which is why QNX-based BlackBerry 10 was a failure. Now that they're moving into Android wholesale, that's not an issue. The issue is they need to convince people they want a real keyboard.
And I did see a report today that suggested that the Priv was the first in a line of a family of products delivering BlackBerry aesthetics, whatever that is. I'm presuming just keyboard.
Yeah, keyboard.
With Android. So I'm interested to see if they do bring anything else out. I'm sure they will. And how different will it be?
They need a cheap one. They need a cheap one. If they bring one out that's 100 quid or 120 at most, that's essentially an Android equivalent of their old Blackberries that they came out with the keyboard underneath, smaller screen on top, I bet there's an awful lot of people that would run out and would buy one. They might end up not loving it, and they might miss the big gigantic screen.
There's too much competition out there for them to do that now, because in order to deliver an Android phone, first and foremost, you look at the constituent parts. Bill of materials is going to be more than 100 quid. They're not, and like you say, they're a company that whatever they do deliver, they're going to have return on investment. So they need to make a profit on each unit.
If they could produce a Moto G, cut the screen in half, the lower half's a keyboard, I think financially, if Motorola can do it, granted BlackBerry's probably not going to have the same scale, so it might not. But either way, then they just have to suck up and eat that cost. They need to convince people that they want a real keyboard. That's all they've got going for them. Real keyboard, and they need to persuade people that they do want that.
So we want an Android BlackBerry Bold.
Yeah, that's what they should make.
We shall see whether that's one of their family of products.
Because I know they are hitting into more devices. I think what the Vice President did say somewhere, and I can't remember, I read it earlier when I was waiting in the dentist, that they were hinting towards that this was just the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. They have.
I think I remember reading, they're like, BlackBerry, this is just the beginning, I think was what it was called. And if they can do something good with Android, they'll be in for a chance. What I think the problem is, the way that they've done it with Android is they've kept the on-screen keyboard. I don't know if that's something that they have to do because it's an Android phone, but for them to really push them, for me, they would have had to scrap the on-screen keyboard and forced you to the physical keyboard. If they couldn't do it, they should have put a disable on-screen keyboard in the settings. I don't know if there is one, but that probably would have been a way for them to get back what they've lost, was to make this for this keyboard. You use this keyboard. There's no option like that in old Blackberries, and I think that's what got them their name.
Well, I think they could do that. They could do that, Chris. I think, but that would require them developing their own fork of Android, because that's not the design aesthetic that Android, in terms of the AOSP and the Google edition of Android, is actually delivered. I think you're going to have to fork off, and you're going to have to do something slightly different in terms of the software delivery.
No, what I've seen, nobody uses stock Android. Everything is modified. You get stock Android. I see a lot of stuff that is close to stock Android. I don't think I've ever seen something that is stock Android beside the Nexus and Google Play Edition stuff. The fact that Samsung tweak it touch with HTC have HTC Sense. I can't think of any more off the top of my head. But it seems a common thing to modify Android, albeit heavy or albeit light. It always seems to feel modified. All the settings pages are all modified. I know the Smart Speed 6 did not remind it. The home screen reminded me of stock Android, and yes, I admit I did put Nova Launcher on it. I like the shortcuts in Nova Launcher. But everything looks and feels modified, even the Moto devices.
Yeah, you're probably right, Chris. So, Mark, you have the last word before we wrap up on this.
Yeah, when you were saying about the different keyboards, I don't think there's any issue that BlackBerry would have in just simply deleting the stock keyboard. You know, they just, if you're going to have any kind of software thing, you just have it pop up that says, pull out your keyboard. And you force it to pull out the physical one.
I mean, I don't know how customized they've made their flavour of Android on the Priv, but I would imagine they haven't done an awful lot of work to it. So maybe that's something that will come in future family devices. Okay, third time lucky. I will close it out now, promise.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, that is all the time we're probably going to have today. So if you do still want to engage us in conversation, hit us up on Twitter. I will put the links to hold on, where are we? Down here somewhere. Our Twitter accounts on in the description on the YouTube archive that you can watch after this. If you want to see it all again, you will be able to listen to it because if you subscribe to Stitcher or iTunes or you just go to the accompanying article that will be on the website, within about half an hour you'll be able to download the MP3 directly. So do have a listen to that as well. And if you want to comment, leave a comment on the article accompanying it. Do hit us up on our Instagram page, Mobile Tech Talk, on Facebook. Just search for Mobile Tech Talk everywhere, basically. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter is MTT3.
Okay, apart from Twitter, Twitter is the odd one out.
Say again, Chris?
Apart from Twitter, Twitter is the odd one out.
Twitter is the odd one out, and blame somebody who doesn't use their Twitter account, and Twitter won't release it. But to be continued on that, I'm not giving up. So if you do want to see more stuff, head over to the website, mobiletechtalk.co.uk. Lots of more. What we do, just in case you don't know, we don't just chat shit about technology. The articles we deliver are hands-on and reviews. If we haven't got our hands on it and we haven't touched it, you're very unlikely to see us posting about it. So we're not a clickbaity news site that wants to tell you about every new build of Windows 10 before it gets released. That's not us. If you want to have a look at some of the latest technology and some of the sort of current generation technology, come and have a look, and our real world application and real world opinions of that device will be actually on our pages. So check that out. Give us a like or dislike if you think we suck on YouTube, because that's always fun. Subscribe if you want to kind of get these archives weekly. And the last one is Patreon. So one of our contributors, Sophie, who will probably be on this podcast before too long, has set us up a Patreon page, so patreon.com/MobileTechTalk. Check that out. See if you want to kind of help us with the running costs. See if you want to help us keep talking like this, or maybe you want to have an input and actually kind of drive the direction we go on the podcast. Fine. Get onto patreon.com/MobileTechTalk. Leave a few comments. Potentially donate some cash to us to help us with the running costs.
Or PayPal. We are on PayPal.
The more people we get involved with the site, the YouTube channel, Patreon, Instagram, the more sort of discussion we can kind of engage in over these social networks, the better it is, and the more content will come, and the more people will actually joining the site and wanting to write for us. So guys, say goodbye to everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Almost on cue and everything. And join us next week, and episode 4 of Talkin Tech will be next week about the same time. Cheers then, guys. Catch you on the next one.